We'll break down all the games here as we do every Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to get the picks from Thursday Night Football. It's Buccaneers and Bears. From college football, Tulane, Houston. Of course, the primetime action from Major League Baseball, Rays, Yankees, Dodgers, Padres. We'll have picks on those as well as football for the weekend. Well, let's go ahead and take a look here at the green room. We got a full guest list on today. We'll have Mitch. Will be part of our co-host. We got Rod, Dana, Al, Ninos, of course, Chris Ruffalo. We got Alex Smart. Damon will be signing on a little later. Of course, then we got Shane Mickle there on the show. But I want to go ahead and welcome in my co-host to the show for today. Of course, Dana Lane and Mitch. Start with you, Dana. How you doing? And, of course, that Atlanta Braves pitching staff get it done again. They pitch a shutout.
I was just figuring out the numbers for them in the postseason. 46 innings, 57 Ks, ERA 0.98. That's the kind of ERA and team staff that you're going to need going in and facing a potent Dodger team, potentially.
Absolutely. Of course, I know Dodger bats, some will say, well, the Dodger bats are a little better than the Marlins and Reds. What do you say, Mitch?
I say I'm just hoping that we don't see a Braves-Astros World Series because that would really be a bummer. I think it's like, let's find teams that I really am not interested in watching. You got the Braves, would be the Braves and the Astros. But actually, it'd be interesting that they're just two totally opposite teams, too.
Yeah, they certainly are. Dana, we've got a game in progress here, 9-4. Houston looking to eliminate these A's from the playoffs. Looks like we've got bottom of the sixth, maybe hitting the seventh inning in this one.
Yeah, I told you before. I mean, what theater would be if the Astros and the Dodgers were able to get together for the World Series? You talk about the opposite of watching Houston and Tampa Bay. That is a must-watch World Series, and that might be exactly what baseball needs right now. But we were talking earlier. Greinke's got to be a little bit better for Houston. He's been bailed out a couple times. Laureano, of course, took him deep. Laureano's had 2 home runs today. But, early in the series against Minnesota, he got bailed out as well. I think he's the key for Houston. If he can turn it around and at least give you 5 innings of 2 earned run ball at least, I think the Astros are in a real good spot to make a lot of noise moving forward.
Mitch, have you been impressed with the Astros? Of course, last night we saw the Dodgers, Kenley Jansen. I asked this to Dana, do you trust Jansen? We both said no, and look what happened last night.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. But with the Astros, to me, it's like when I saw Altuve hit the ball the other way the other day for a hit, I knew that things were changing, for the Astros. And that, if he's hitting the ball the other way for hits, very, very hard to beat this Astros team. It just is. I mean, that's what they were missing all season long was Altuve, getting hits and, hitting to the opposite field. And that pretty much has been what's been driving this team for a few years offensively. And you get that going, and then everybody else starts joining in the party and, 2 home runs for Correa. And here you are headed to the, to the pennant.
Absolutely. All right, guys, the drive-through. We got a lot of picks coming, so hang on. We're going to go ahead and get our plays coming in and bring in Alex Smart. You'll find him over at Pig Dogs Premium. I always call Alex Smart professional better first, handicapper second, because he pushed a lot of money through the ticket windows. Alex, how you doing today? Enjoying these playoffs?
Doing good. It's really interesting. Mattress Mike continues to make some cash. So he can get his money back from last year, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Of course, Mattress Matt, he likes to pound on the Astros, but I think he's trying to leverage his money a little bit, right? Isn't he giving away furniture?
Yeah, I think that's how he leverages it anyway. It's just a big promotion, yeah. So he covers his butt both ways. So I think he's fine.
Yeah, he'll be fine. All right. Yep. And of course, watching this Atlanta. What's your thoughts here on this Braves team? They're getting the job done, but again, look at the strength of they drew the Marlins and the Reds in their first 2 series.
Yeah, well, they did. And what was the question again? What was this question? I went off into another world. I just heard something behind me.
I know you're looking for numbers on those football games, right?
Yeah.
I know. He's ready to pound one of those games, right? You're waiting for a number. Yeah. I know. You're 24/7 on trying to pound these bookies. But yeah, I was talking about your thoughts of this Atlanta Braves team. What you thought of them? They pitch well. They played the minimum. Haven't lost a playoff game to my knowledge, and they're doing well.
No, they're doing well, and I didn't think there was any value here with them. And I was on them today, and The Marlins are just too young and too inexperienced. I don't care what they've done. You know, you got to remember this was a 60-game schedule, so we were getting ahead of ourselves in some ways and looking at certain teams maybe giving them too much credit. You know, it was a great 60-game run for the Marlins, and you know they made it to the playoffs, whatever that means now in this kind of situation. But you know, hey, you could just see the Braves are head and shoulders above this team, and even with the score here in this final game.
Absolutely. All right, Alex, you're going to be taking a look here at the late night game tonight between the Padres and the Dodgers, and let's take a look here what the lines say. Right now, current odds, we've got Dodgers favored here about $1.60 to $1.70 total in this one. Let me pull up the total. I thought I had the total up here, didn't I? Let's see. What do we got here on the total?
With 9.5.
9.5, I think, is what we're looking at here. All right, 9.5 in this one. Of course, we're looking at Morejon, the lefty, the youngster on the mound here for San Diego. It'll be Dustin May, the young right-hander who's was used in relief thus far in the postseason. And of course, Padres looking to stave off elimination. How do you see it?
Well, you know, it's a break for the Padres. They haven't always done all that great against lefties, so you know they get a righty to play to face here for a bit. The most important thing is I think Morejon is one of these dark horse kind of kids that can really bring something here. Like last night, okay, I'll just give you an example of what I'm trying to say here. What I'm trying to spit out is last night we thought, okay, Tatis got robbed, and and everyone was like, that's it, that's it. The Dodgers are going to win this series in 3. Well, I'm not so sure about that because from my point of view, I could see a really hungry, young San Diego team that didn't look beaten. And I could see them coming out here tonight behind Morejon. This kid's electric, by the way, 97 mile-an-hour fastball. I mean, he's not that big of a kid, and he just rocks with this stuff. He's got some nasty stuff. He's got a real nasty slider, a curveball, and I mean, he comes at you from a lot of different directions, and I think he's going to give the Dodgers, who are maybe ahead of themselves and looking ahead here, some problems tonight.
All right, so you're looking here at the Padres in this one, Alex?
Yeah, I'm looking at Padres, and, earlier on in the day, of course, we would have bet this. I mean, we would have got a lot better odds, but, now we're back to fair value again, and somebody knows where the money's going, and I feel the money rightfully tonight anyway, on the odds that we're looking at least, is maybe with I'm going to go back here a bit. Maybe with the Dodgers on fair value, but the Padres are my pick tonight.
All right,
I have to put that. Yeah,
that's right. He says go ahead and take the Padres. Dano, your thoughts are on this Padre team. Showed a little life there at the end, but Kelly bailed out L.A. for the victory.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to see Joe Kelly tonight, but it is going to be interesting because if Gatterall gets in there, I mean, honestly, I think that's your closer of the future. I mean, this kid goes in there and throws 100 miles an hour and can't be any worse than with Jansen. I can't tell you how many times, and you brought up yesterday, Tony, about how many times you've been on the Dodgers, especially -1.5, and in comes Jansen, and it's first and second, nobody out before you even know it. And, once again, Joe Kelly had to bail him out as well. As far as Morejon is concerned, I mean, like Alex said, throws 97, 98 miles an hour, has a 4-seam fastball, real good slider, even throws a changeup. So I think early on with kids like this, you really have to get them settled early. If you're going to get to them, it's going to be, of course, in the first or second inning. But if he can get settled, I don't know how long he's going to go tonight. I don't know how long either one of these starters are actually going to go tonight, which for me bodes well for an under because I really do like these bullpen games, especially when you have teams that have deep bullpens. I like the different pitchers that come in and out every 2 or 3 innings, and I think that really throws lineups off kilter a little bit. So now you're going to give me a number at 9.5. That to me is interesting as far as going with the under. But I think you're going to see a Dodger team that is going to come out, focused. I think they're going to win this series. I think, May pitched 2 innings of relief in game 1. I think he's going to be sharp. I think this is going to be a pitcher's duel tonight. They're going to get within that 9.5, probably about 7 runs is what I have, but I think we're looking at an under.
Mitch, what do you think here with May on? He maybe could go 4 or 5, and then you're probably looking at our boy Urias and then Gonzalez. They're probably just rotating pitchers every other day.
Yeah, May was a pleasant surprise, I'd say, for the Dodgers. Since opening day when Kershaw was scratched, and they put May in. He pitched well, and he's pitched well all season long. Doesn't look like the conventional pitcher. Looks more like a reliever, from appearance wise, and certainly the way he throws too. Guy throws hard, man. He is a good pitcher. Make no mistake about it. He might have bozo hair, but man, he's no clown on the mound. That's for sure. And Morahone on back to him. We haven't seen him throw more than an inning or two so far this season. We did see him get rocked a few times in spots, but I tell you, I've made a lot of money over the years on these Cuban pitchers. I mean, they really know how to develop the pitchers over there in Havana. And the thing is that a lot of people, they don't understand that, and there's usually tons of value on these Cuban pitchers. And we had, how many of these guys remember El Duque when he came over for the Yankees? I mean, he's unhittable, right? And then they moved him into middle relief later in his career, in Chicago. The problem is you're never really sure how old or how young these guys really are. He's listed, 1999 his birthday. That could mean 2010, with these Cuban pitchers, just like, with El Duque, it was the other way. You're not really sure. We don't know how old Aroldis Chapman is. I mean, it is how it is, This is, if you look at the Cuban baseball players around the major leagues, the White Sox, first baseman, the MVP this year is going to be a Cuban, player as well. So these guys, they really, really developed the talent over there, and it's held, in the United States, baseball is kind of become the third or fourth sport. It used to be America's pastime, but with all the salaries and the strikes and everything else, it's really moved down the pecking order. But in places like Cuba, Dominican Republic, and that's why we see so many talented players coming out of there. And I think it is a bullpen game, but we've seen Morahone get rocked, but we've also seen him be absolutely unhittable too. So he's going to need to be on top of his game, because the Dodgers are going to come out swinging.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll be coming out swinging. All right, Alex, you're on here on the Padres tonight. I said underdog as we approach the bottom of the hour. Big weekend coming up here. What do you have going on over at Pig Dogs Premium?
Plenty of college football. I'm on a nice run with college football. I'm 7-1 in my last 8, and hopefully I rock it again this weekend and really make some big profits for everybody who follows me. And, of course, the NFL. The NFL wasn't so great last week, so I'm looking for a bounce back.
All right, I'm looking for a bounce back here from Alex Smart. Check him out over at Pig Dogs Premium. You'll see him at the top of leaderboards. He does great work there. All right, Alex, have a great weekend. Enjoy the games, and we'll talk with you tomorrow, next week.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right.
Yeah,
all right, buddy. Alex Smart here on the drive-thru. Guys, still a lot of picks coming. We got Thursday Night Football, both college and NFL picks for you from Thursday night. I want to take a look here, guys, at this game, Oklahoma and Texas. Red River rivalry, 12 noon Eastern. That opened Oklahoma 2.5. We're seeing some 2s and 1s out there. Total 70, high total here at 72.5. Dana, both defense ailing a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how the Longhorns come out. Of course, they were upset last week against TCU. They fumbled the ball away at the 1 yard line. So that's important to understand that as well. I mean, what should have happened is they should have walked away with a squeezed out a victory. So, think about that when you're going into this week. Don't just say, well, they lost to TCU. How are they going to beat Texas? But this is a team offensively that still has put up 153 points this season. That's their most through 3 games since 1947. So this offense is going to put up points for you, and you only have to lay 2.5 against Texas. They're probably not in a very good mood. And honestly, this is about whether or not Spencer Rattler is going to have a good second half. He's been fantastic in most first halves. Then he comes out in the second half and he's, less than stellar. So it's always been a tale of 2 halves with him this season. You'll have to watch that as well. Maybe there's a halftime opportunity to bet this game. And this is the first time that Oklahoma has headed into this game unranked in the first time in like 15 years. So I think Oklahoma, you're going to get the best effort out of them. 2.5 is not a lot to lay for me.
What do you think, Mitch, on this rivalry game?
Well, it's really not the same without the deep-fried Snickers and deep-fried Oreos at the Texas State Fairgrounds. Me and the Puck Dogs had an extensive conversation about this on the morning show a few days ago, and I'm sure before the game time we'll have a few more. But, I think what Dana said about Rattler is 100% spot on, that he's been terrible in the second half. And, I think when you go back even to that first game against Missouri State where he didn't play in the second half, the Sooners have been bad in the second half. They did nothing in that game, and even though, the Oklahoma motto, against the bad teams, we'll hang a half 100 on them by halftime and put the scrubs in. And that's exactly what they did. But normally the scrubs on Oklahoma are still moving the ball up and down the field and accused of running up the score. Just haven't seen that from Oklahoma. We've seen, the vulnerability against Kansas State. We saw it again against Iowa State. And, I just think that Oklahoma has some serious problems, and we've seen teams go from winning every single year to falling off, and it's called players leaving early. And there's certain teams that can maintain it, but there's only so long you can maintain it. Expect that. We saw Alabama a couple of years ago, Deshaun Watson dragging them up and down the field, sucking wind because they didn't have the depth anymore. And we'll continue to see it, and from other teams. But it's only natural that Oklahoma takes a step back. They can't have a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback every single year. And they certainly, I know Hazelton's a great wide receiver that's sitting out there, and, maybe he made a wrong choice going to Oklahoma instead of Miami like I thought he should. But, I just think that, if Texas is going to get him, this is the time. This is the time they have to get him, because you got to figure that Herman's got to be on somewhat of a hot seat there in Texas. 8-5 last season. Last week I had TCU on the money line. I think Ruffalo was with me on that one, and it was almost obvious that Texas is going to lose. And it's just this Texas program is in trouble. Sam Erlinger is a nice quarterback, but how in the heck does Texas not have a Trevor Lawrence type quarterback since Vince Young was there? It just doesn't even make any sense when everybody else has one, from Texas. It's like it just doesn't even make sense anymore. And I think, with Herman there, the expectation was that they were going to get that quarterback. They were going to have this wide open offense. They were going to beat these teams like, TCU and Iowa State and Kansas State. This in the great Texas team. Those teams are an afterthought. It's this game, and the winner of this game plays in the playoff or the national championship game, and that's not going to happen. And I think for Herman, he's got to beat Oklahoma, and this is his best chance.
I agree. Okay, Mitch and Dana join me here on the drive-thru, guys. A lot more picks coming, so hang on. We're getting one right now. So let's go ahead and bring in one of the pick dogs. We'll welcome El Ninos to the show. El, how you doing? Must be smiling. Things looking good for LA on the hardwood and on the diamond.
Looking good everywhere. Yeah, it's a good year to be a LA fan.
Yeah, there's no doubt. A really good year to be an LA fan. Of course, what's your thoughts here with Jansen, huh? You think it's time to switch the closer?
It's time to do something. It's really cost us a couple bucks on the run line a few times this year. And, he's a good pitcher, don't get me wrong, but yeah, he's definitely getting smashed this year.
All right, you're going to take a look at
the like button you should smash.
That's right. Like you like smashing, you should smash. Absolutely, guys. Here's a team you like, the Raiders. You're going to be looking at this Raiders and Chiefs game. We're seeing KC favored 11. It was 13 yesterday. I saw 13 and a half. Yep. It's come down to 11. Yep. Total sits here at 55. Of course, it's tough. Look, when you look at the Chiefs' schedule, tough to play, the Ravens and Patriots in back-to-back weeks. Raiders coming off a loss. How do you see this one?
Well, I see a couple of things here. I see the Chiefs having the best offense in the league. Know where to start with these guys. You got Mahomes, Hill, Edwards-Helaire, Kelsey, Watkins, and then a few other good offensive weapons as well. They got off to a very slow start last game, but finished strong. They scored more points in the fourth quarter. Both teams actually combined scored more points in the fourth quarter than they did in the first three. And so I'm going to take a bold prediction here and say they get off to a better start this week. And, the Raiders have some pretty good weapons on offense, too. Ruggs, he's been a little banged up, but he practiced in full on Wednesday, so should be good to go for this one. Waller's coming off a huge game. And I expect another good one out of him here. Carr's going to have to throw the ball a lot in this game, so I expect him to target those two a lot. and I do expect some big plays out of those three. And I guess what I'm trying to get to here is I'm expecting a lot of offense and a lot of points being scored in this one, so I'm taking the game to go over the total with 55.5.
All right, El Nino says take over the total with the Raiders and the Chiefs. And, of course, Dana, this Raider team, you're out there in Vegas. What's the word on this team? I know that their issues have been defense.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Even going back to the Carolina game, I mean, clearly it was a W, but, coming out of that, the talk around town was I got to get better defensively. And, the Chiefs are really not the team that you want to try to get better defensively against. As Al mentioned, Henry Ruggs was at practice. Trent Brown was at practice today, so that's good. You get some depth at the right tackle position. But in order for them to stay in this game or even have an inkling of winning this game, they have to win the turnover battle. They have to force turnovers. So if they don't do that, even if it's even, they have no chance of winning this game. Still maybe to be able to stay within the point spread for perhaps, but that's going to be more, I think, because Kansas City's inability to kind of crank back up again, as you mentioned, after playing New England, after playing Baltimore in big time primetime spots, and now they have to play the Raiders. And yeah, it's a division game, but this is a team that they've handled quite easily over the years. I will say this for Derek Carr. I mean, there's nothing on the roster right now. But for Derek Carr, these are the types of games where you have to start winning. Otherwise, the Raiders have got to look elsewhere for a franchise quarterback, because Derek Carr, let's face it, just has not won on a consistent basis against teams that he probably shouldn't beat. And that's how you elevate yourself and your team to the next level. But I think this is going to be a little bit of a letdown spot for Kansas City. I think you're going to get the best effort that you possibly can on the Raiders, because let's face it, if the Raiders lose this game, the division is in theory it's over. It might be over right now anyway, but at least they still have some hope. And for me, the Raiders have to be better than they've been offensively against Kansas City. In fact, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the point differential between these two teams have not even been close. So two things: move the ball, especially on the ground, and they have to win the turnover battle. Not get even. They have to win the turnover battle in order to stay close in this game. And just to clarify as well, if I said it wrong, I thought I said it wrong in my head. Texas has scored 53 points, which is the most that they've scored in we'll throw that away. Oklahoma lost to Iowa State, not Texas and TCU, if I mixed that up earlier. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify that.
It is clarified.
Which is not clarified at all now.
All right, Mitch. Of course, we saw that the Chargers hold the Chiefs at 20 points through 4 quarters. They give up the field goal in the overtime. We saw Belichick with a pretty good defensive plan against KC, but the Raiders just don't have the personnel or maybe the brain power to do this.
I don't know if they have the personnel or brain power, but we're going to find out, because leave it to Bill Belichick. He's going to draw up the plan, and the rest of the league is going to follow it. And he's going to find the weakness, in any player or any team, and he's going to show the world exactly what that is. Even if the player or the coach didn't even know this was their weakness. And we saw what it was. It was the bull rush up the middle, that you sweep Mahomes out of the pocket, not on his own will, but on your will to push him, one way or the other. He's not quite as effective. And you saw the Patriots even went to man coverage on these Chiefs receivers to do that. And it was like, hey, we can get away with man coverage because this guy's not nearly as accurate when we're rushing him out of the pocket. But it's got to come from straight up the middle, and I don't know if the Raiders have the players to do that. They're gonna have to blitz to do that, and that could create problems, because that will probably leave Hilaire open, and he's not a guy you want to really leave open. It's because this guy is really good after the catch. He's good before the catch. He's good after the catch. He's good with the football in his hands. Not as good without the football in his hands, but good with the football in his hands, and that is going to create some problems. I think Al hit it on the head. The Raiders are going to have to try and run with them in spots, and that's usually not a good idea either. But man, crazier things have happened. This is a rivalry game. I mean, make no mistake about it. And Gruden, of all people, knows that.
Yeah, they certainly do. All right, Al, you are on the over in this game as we hit the bottom of the hour. You have pretty good football numbers at Pick Dogs. What do you have going on at Pick Dogs Premium?
Yeah, got to play on the side and total for the Thursday night football. And yeah, still haven't made any plays for Sunday yet, but we'll be getting to them. As
All
you
right.
said, there's a big move on this line. And yeah, still trying to get some numbers where I want them to be. A few of them maybe I should get on pull the trigger on, because I see a couple of them slipping away too. So take a good look at them tonight for sure.
All right, Al. It's always great having your show. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, have a good one, guys.
All right, everybody. Al Ninos here on the drive-thru, guys. Still a lot more picks coming. As a matter of fact, we're going to get one right now from Dana as we're going to look at the Thursday night game between Tampa Bay and Chicago. We're finding the team on the road here, Tampa, laying about 3 to 4. Total sits at 44.5. I know it was reported Dave Mack looks like he's going to play, but of course Tampa Bay, both the teams are 3-1. The quarterback switch to Foles really didn't work out the way they hoped. But how do you see this one, Dana?
Well, I mean, I really like the balance on this Tampa Bay team. I mean, obviously their record is, indicates that they've played well so far this year. And of course, the one loss against the Saints. But other than that, last week was the first week that I really looked at them and said, this is as good as this offense has been all year. And I think that they will continue to that tonight against Chicago. The Bears are 7th in total defense, which might scare some people away. We see that total coming under just a little bit, but keep in mind that was against the Giants, that was against the Falcons, it was against the Colts, and that was against the Lions. And I would hope that your defensive ranking would be good after 4 games against those teams. The Bucs gave up 31 points to the Chargers, who were 22nd in touchdowns scored. So on that side of the ball, I'm not too excited about getting Tampa Bay or Tampa Bay's ability to stop Chicago's offense. And one area of concern, obviously, is the injuries for Tampa. With the loss of Chris Godwin, Mike Evans he's going to be a game time decision. He's going to go out and run around and see if he's going to be able to play, which I expect him to see him on the field. I know Leonard Fournette was listed as questionable early in the year. Listen, if Scott Miller is a guy that you got to rely on, one of the things in handicapping, we take a look at the top guys and say, geez, if you're out or you're less than 100%, that really is a check mark against that team. But, if you go a little bit deeper, I mean, there are guys behind every player that are looking to prove themselves. And, Scott Miller's a guy that runs a 4.340, and he runs really good routes, and he's extremely quick. So I don't know. I mean, Brady's a guy that's been making average receivers look great for a very long time. So I'm not going to put too much emphasis on the Tampa Bay injury issues, but I do like this game to go under or go over the totals and over the total. And I do expect Nick Foles to be much better. Of course, we've said this in previous shows that the difference between start 1 and start 2 is the biggest leap probably all year. And I expect to see that for the Bears tonight. So both of these teams, I think, are going to go up and down the field. I don't really trust either one of their defenses. I think 44.5, although it's a fairly large number, I think we're going to get over that pretty easy.
All right, Stan Lane here coming in with the over in this one. Mitch, your thoughts here on this Bears team now with Foles under center?
Well, Foles seems to be a better reliever than starter. We've seen that throughout his career, and so I never thought he was the answer. We knew Trubisky wasn't the answer. I criticized that draft choice before they ever made it, and I have not wavered one bit on that. And I just think that they traded way too much to move up for a guy who there's no way can lead this team to a championship. So it's just, if you're trading up and trading draft picks and trading all kinds of stuff for a guy, he's got to be a piece of the puzzle to win the championship. And this guy is not that, He got them to a playoff game, which they lost on a missed field goal. But, that's the highlight of his career. I think that we might see the opposite here, where Foles starts and maybe Trubisky comes in and relieves him. And I think that might be the best chance that the Bears have to at least hang in this game. I think one thing that we have to take notice, though, is that Tom Brady, even though that he, 30 of 46, 5 touchdowns, tough to complain about that. One of those incompletions was a pick 6 that went the other way. Not something we've seen from Brady throughout his career. Really not typical stuff. We've seen him miss some easy throws, too. So it's like against a Bears team that's super opportunistic. And some of those bouncing balls that, don't mean anything against a team like the Los Angeles Chargers, Against the Bears, those are touchdowns going the other way, or the Bears always, and if the ball takes a funny bounce, that's when the Bears are that's when they're in their comfort zone. That is the Chicago Bear football. And I think, we're going to find out over the next few weeks that, Tom Brady is fine, and he's getting more accustomed to working with these players and getting to know their tendencies and things like that, and getting to, they're going to have the system, and he's going to be, Tom Brady. But is he Tom Brady with Bill Belichick Tom Brady, or is he Tom Brady without Bill Belichick Tom Brady? And right now he's Tom Brady with Bruce Arians Tom Brady, which is a good quarterback guy. But, yeah, the Tampa Bay running game, it's not like, Bill Belichick always found a way, to give him some support with the running game. I'm not really seeing it here, Jones had 111 yards last week, but I believe they're in the bottom 5 or 6 teams in the NFL in rushing the football, and you got to be able to rush the football in the NFL if you're going to go anywhere.
Yeah, and of course help the quarterback along with that run game. But Dana, going on your side here has been the red zone execution for the Bucs, second best in the league. Of course, that's Brady.
Yeah, and all those things bode well for the over. I mean, I hope they can't run the ball. I hope they have to throw all day long. I mean, that's again. I mean, last week was the most balanced that I've seen them. But I do expect them to get better. I wonder how the injuries are going to affect. But, it's a good point by Mitch as well. I mean, it doesn't matter where the points come from. I mean, if the defense causes these points, that's great. It's going over the total. And you have to factor that in as well when you're handicapping. I don't think it's, this is going to be the cleanest game we've ever seen. Of course, if you're Chicago, you don't want it to be, because if it's not a clean game, it probably favors them. But certainly, to me, for what it's worth, the Bucs in October of the last 28 games have gone over the total 22 times. So whatever that's worth, that's something to chew on as well. But this, to me, every aspect and every way that I look at this, I think there's going to be a lot of points scored, especially in the second half.
All right, it's Dana Lane here on our drive-through show. A lot more picks coming. Dana, as we just passed the bottom of the hour, we see you top of the leaderboard. It's a really good baseball season. We're into football now. What do you have going on at Pig Dogs Premium?
Well, like we talked about yesterday, I mean, I take a little bit to make sure that when I'm putting out plays that, you back me with your money. So I need to make sure that the work I'm putting behind your money is, every bit as much as I would put into a baseball selection. So last week was the first time that we really jumped in 6-1 in college football, 3-1-1 in the NFL. An incredible weekend. We expect, of course, to do that again. We have a college and a NFL package that's up there right now. Combo package seems to be pretty popular. And, of course, you can get NFL or college football individual packages as well. But we're just going to keep on rolling. I mean, it's baseball was great, and now I'm scared to death because now I got to jump into another sport and, start making sure we make money 365 days a year.
Absolutely, guys. Check them out. Dana Lane over at Pig Dogs Premium. Pick up one of those long-term packages. We're into football now. It's a good time to get on board with Dana Lane. Make some money this football season. All right, here on the drive-thru, guys. Still a lot more coming. We got picks coming from the Thursday night game. Got some primetime picks still for that Tampa Bay and New York Yankees game. But first, I'd like to take a look from college football. The two ranked teams going at it. Early start, noon Eastern, Virginia Tech at North Carolina. The home team, Carolina, here favored by 4. And, of course, in this one, a real big step-up class here for the Tar Heels in this one, Dana.
Well, I mean, this is, so far Virginia Tech has run the ball at will. They've run for 638 yards this season. That is their most that they've had in 25 years. So I think they feel obviously pretty good about their running game. And it's really simple for Carolina. Get ahead in this game, stop Khalil Herbert. And if they can do that, that 4.5 looks like a number that they can certainly cover. They limited BC last week to just 40 yards rushing. So there's certainly, I understand it's apples and oranges, but from a defensive standpoint, I mean, they tackled really well. They were in their lanes. They were not undisciplined very much last week. And, if they can make Virginia Tech one-dimensional by getting ahead early in this game, I don't think there's any way Virginia Tech stays within 15 points or 14, 15 points of Carolina.
How do you see this one, Mitch, between this ACC battle between the Hokies and the Tar Heels? Of course, so far the Tar Heels have gotten, they've gotten past teams that, I don't know, people are saying maybe hasn't been a real tough schedule early for them, beating the likes of Syracuse and these are inexperienced offenses too with BC.
Mac Brown is a great recruiter, so they're going to be stacked with talent in North Carolina. I'm not sold on the quarterback position there. I think they're really bought all in on, another North Carolina quarterback that just reminds me a lot of Mitch Trubisky. And I think it's a lot of the same story all over again. Meanwhile, this Virginia Tech team is a lot better than people thought they were going to be. They starched NC State at home. And then, then we were just, on the morning show, I just went into my whole, NC State hasn't come within 40 points of anybody on the road in 2 years. And, here they go the next week, they go win on the road. Right. So, maybe this Virginia Tech team is a little better than people think. And I think that the transfer from Kansas, Herbert, the running back, is outstanding. I mean, we knew he was great at Kansas. It's like when you're good at Kansas, you're going to be good everywhere you go. And I have always liked the way that Virginia Tech does things. And I think now that they've kind of peeled things back a little bit and gone more to a traditional Virginia Tech type program, I just think that this one's probably going to be pretty tight. And it's like, I think, Virginia Tech is sort of like the Bears. They kind of make it look, it doesn't always look so clean. It's not always like this, Tom Brady surgical, offense thing. It's, sometimes it looks a little schoolyard, and it works for them. And, it works for the teams that type of, in order to play that type of football, you have to be exceptional on special teams. And that's what Virginia Tech is. And that's how you put yourself in position to win games on the road. I think this is a field goal either way. So I'm going to take the 4 with the Hokies in this one.
All right, Mitch and Dana join me here on the drive-thru, guys. Still a lot more picks coming, and let's go ahead and welcome in one of the Puck Dogs. You'll hear him in the morning show with Mitch at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. It's Chris Ruffalo. Chris, how you doing? Checking out this Astros holding on to this lead 11-4 as the shadows start to hit Dodger Stadium. Things look dire for the Athletics.
Yeah, I was going to say this might not be the night where it starts to look a little bit dicey late in the game, but it's playoff baseball. So, I mean, let's be real. You never really know, right?
Yeah, you really don't know what happens in these playoffs. Of course, both managers and players have been complaining about the shadows at Dodger Stadium, but that's what you get when you play at this time of the day. But, yeah, we've talked about all right, you're going to look at an ACC game today, Chris, between South Carolina and Vanderbilt. Boy, you picked a great one here. We got South Carolina, but it doesn't matter how good they are, man. It's how they pay. That's what matters. All right, South Carolina going to lay 13.5. Total sits here at 41. A low total, that tells you this is one of those Vandy teams that really lacks offense.
I figured I'll touch the game that nobody else probably wants to touch. That's probably been my MO for 4+ years at this website. But I mean, South Carolina, they're probably going to finish near the basement with Vanderbilt this season, and Vanderbilt's a team that's not going to garner much support from anybody this season. I mean, you look at Vanderbilt's last 10 games as a double-digit underdog, 1-9 against the spread. And even LSU came in earlier this season and beat them 41-7. So. It just seems like that Vanderbilt hasn't really rebounded from all the loss of talent last year. I mean, Mitch and I have covered it in our videos. I mean, you lose guys like Riley Neal and Keyshawn Vaughn from last year's Commodores team. That was a big part of their offense, and the talent just hasn't seemed to turn over there. And Will Muschamp, as much as I try to justify maybe one of the higher paid coach contracts in the SEC, this is a guy that Tony and I talked about Romeo Crennel yesterday with. A 250 record outside of one winning season. You look at Will Muschamp; he's only had one winning season in 8 years, and that was with a pretty good Georgia team and at Florida as well. South Carolina, they're going to be a slow build as well, and they're going to have to replace Colin Hill as a grad transfer later in the season. But for me, this one just seems like a double-digit win for the Gamecocks. I mean, Vanderbilt, like I said. When they're a double-digit home dog, it's usually for a good reason. I'm just going to follow the trend here. 1-9 against the spread. It's a double-digit home dog in their last 10. I'm going to lay the points with South Carolina here.
All right, Chris Ruffalo says go ahead and take South Carolina laying the points against this Vanderbilt team, a really inexperienced offense. Dana, I looked at the schedule here for South Carolina after this one. It's a totally tough one. They got Auburn, LSU, and Texas A&M.
It's exactly what I was going to bring up, and now we're asking them to cover double digits against a team they're probably not even really focused on as much this week. I mean, they have, as you said, Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M. listen, this comes down to running the ball and controlling the clock a little bit for Vanderbilt. If Marlowe, who ran well last week, can do that, I think they can stay within the 13.5. The Publics and the Sharps, however, don't agree with me. They're both the money's going on South Carolina. The ticket count is on South Carolina. A lot of times when that happens, that doesn't always work out. In fact, in the last 15 times, we've been able to track that there have been 11 losers in that situation. So I'm not saying that that's the primary reason, but that's just a food for thought. But this is a game where I don't want a turnover late to come back and bite me. As South Carolina's ahead, by 17 points, turnover late. Vanderbilt gets a late spot and comes in and gets a backdoor cover. I will say this: I think that Derek Mason, who is probably on the hot seat, probably not probably, he's on the hot seat. This is the type of game that his teams need to start playing well in order for him to stay there. They have not committed a turnover this year, so I don't think we're going to be giving up any points in bad situations on the field. So you have that as well. This is probably a game I'm not going to be involved in, but I really don't want to lay 13.5 with those teams coming up on South Carolina's schedule.
Yeah, I kind of looked at that. That's why I kind of lean under, but look at the total, Mitch. It's 41. It's pretty low total.
It is a low total, and I got to agree with Dana. I think there's going to be a lot of mucking around in this game. In South Carolina, not traditionally a team that really keeps it together for 4 quarters of football. We saw Vandy hold it tight against Texas A&M on the road at College Station. I don't see how they don't do it here. Also, a side note, we got to commend Chris. He was the only one on the morning show to be able to successfully put together what exactly those 11 herbs and spices in Kentucky Fried Chicken are. 3 different kinds of salt. Who knew it? I guess salt was number 1 on the list, but there's 3 different kinds of salt in that thing. What was it? Garlic salt? You got celery salt, and of course, salt, which we all can taste with every bite of the KFC. But 11, he got all 11. Anyways, which not easy. I think on this one, though, I think Chris is on the wrong side of things. I got to go with Vandy here.
All right, Mitch says take with Vandy in this one. All right, I'm kind of right in with the under. I see an ugly game, maybe 24-6, 27-9, something ugly like we always see with Vanderbilt. All right, back here on the drive-thru, Chris. As we approach the top of the hour here, what do you have going on over at Pig Dog Stream? I see you having a fantastic NBA season.
Yeah, you know what? Nobody took me up on that on the offer yesterday for the week. So you know what? I decided I'm going to do it one more time. Decided to lower it. I'm going to do a week for $79.95 just until the top of the hour. Also modified a little bit of a package around. You're going to get my Thursday night football whale bet. You're going to get my college football play for tonight and a top play in MLB for $29.95. But both of those are going to go off the board at the top of the hour, so don't miss out on those.
Yeah, don't miss out on those. All right, guys, check out Chris Ruffalo over at Pig Dog Spree and pick up one of his long-term packages. And, of course, you'll be able to listen and watch Chris in the morning show, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. I know that Lakers-Heat game will be a hot discussion.
Oh, absolutely. I have a feeling that we might be going back and forth on that one for a little while. But, you know what, I'm looking forward to it all the same as I do every morning.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Chris.
Tony, do you dip your KFC in the gravy, the chicken? Because I don't dip the chicken in the gravy. I think the gravy is for the mashed potatoes. Even in the picture, it's on the potatoes. But Ruffalo and Rod Zawacki both believe that the gravy is there for the chicken. I mean, I don't know.
When I heard you don't dip the chicken in the gravy, I thought it was sacrilege. This was
not the chicken, but the biscuit. The biscuit in the gravy is very good, by the way.
Okay, but that's not the point that we're getting at here. Are we talking about the chicken or no chicken?
I know. No chicken, but I'll do the best.
Okay.
I'm surprised there wasn't 3 different types of grease in there. I thought there'd be 4 or 5. I thought you would have your lard, your vegetable, your canola. Nope.
This is Chris. On that biscuit and the gravy, that was the same look that Rod Zawacki gave when we asked him if he ever deep fried a Pillsbury cinnamon roll. That was the exact same look that he gave. That's not a bad idea.
You lost me for about 10 seconds. I just visualized it, and all of a sudden my brain was just trying to reconnect with the conversation. It just
yeah, it's county. You know, as you can tell, it's county fair season in the United States. By the way, so we're bringing up all these state fairs everywhere.
Trust me. I'm well aware. The discussion, the words deep fried Oreos came up about 2 or 3 times, and And again, I lost focus at that point. It's just like, wait, what game are we talking about again?
I got to ask Dana, have you ever tried one of those deep fried Twinkies on Fremont Street?
I don't try anything on Fremont Street. I try to drive right around there, but no, I don't know if deep fried Twinkie is a metaphor or it's actually something that exists, but no, I have not. I drove by downtown yesterday, and it was. I'm telling you, just as a side note, and because I was not prepped for this KFC discussion, but I will say that Vegas downtown was absolutely buzzing for the first time in quite a while. And I also will tell you this: when there was a bucket of KFC sitting on the table when you got home, it was going to be a good night. It was either KFC or a big thing of pizza. It was going to be a freaking good night in the Lane household. Little did I know it was just because nobody wanted to cook.
Yeah, I can assure you, deep fried Twinkies are a thing. They're legitimate, and do not miss out.
I didn't know
the old Mermaids is gone, and that's where who had the deep fried Twinkie and the deep fried Oreos. They had both those at Mermaids, but now they're gone.
There was a strip club next door, so I didn't know if there was a deep fried Twinkie dancer in there.
Oh God, oh, no! I should have figured that's where that was going.
We'll have more. We'll have more food.
You do realize I can't have a deep fried Twinkie or deep fried anything anymore, at least for 24 hours after hearing that. Now I gotta cleanse.
Oh, cleanse. All right, Chris. Have a good night. We'll watch you tomorrow at 10:30 with Mitch and company.
Thank you guys for having me. Have a good night.
All right, that was our buddy Chris Ruffalo here, back here on the show. Guys, I want to take a look at this college game in the Big 12. Texas Tech and Iowa State. Big line here for Iowa State, 12.5. I know Bowman is listed dealing with a shoulder injury, but his backup didn't look too bad there, Dana.
No, I probably won't be involved in this game because I don't know where either team is mentally. I mean, I talk about that from a mental standpoint, probably one of my first or second things that I do when I handicap games. I don't know where the Cyclones are after their big win. Of course, they're in a good spot, but I don't know how that equates. And of course, I don't know where Texas Tech is after dropping a overtime game to Texas. I still have not figured out either one of these teams. But I will say this, what was impressive about Iowa State is not so much the W, but the fact that they came back in a series that, normally they would just go away and die after being down by 11 points, but they came back and won. That tells me a little bit about Matt Campbell's team, that I can rely on them even if they're down. I think 12.5 is a lot of points, but, is Texas Tech going to be able to stop Breece Hall? I don't think so. I think he's going to be able to get a ton of yards on the ground. I see this as a really tight game going into the fourth quarter. Iowa State adding some points late to just barely get over this. I see this as a 13 or 14-point game, but it is really important for Iowa State to be able to run the ball, because the better that they can run the ball, the more you keep the high-octane offense of Texas Tech off the field. I think they're going to do that. It would definitely beat Iowa State or nothing for me in this game.
Mitch, how are you looking at here Iowa State laying this number here off that win against Oklahoma?
Well, I have a philosophy that I stick with, and it's first Dana's, which is, if I don't really have an opinion, there's plenty other games out there for me to bet. And I see better opportunities than this game. But, if it's a Big 12 game, if all else fails, take the over. I mean, it's like, I'm not an over player either, but it's like when it comes to the Big 12, 9 touchdowns is nothing. It's really, that's 2.5 quarters of football, really, for a Big 12 game. And I can see the Texas Tech defense, usually a sieve, getting carved up in this one, and, usually probably willing to air it out. And I think what happens in these games, and, something that in football, which is generally underrated, is when the team gets up by 14 or more points, generally the game plan goes out the window and it becomes a pure passing, it's like everyone, they know what they're going to have to do, and and the play calling changes because that is what they do, and they just go into a throwing thing. And I think that's going to be this kind of game. Might turn into a little bit of a track meet.
That could be. All right, here, guys, here on the drive-thru, still a lot more picks coming. We've got some NFL, some baseball. Of course, we got one starting pretty soon. Here, actually, we're going to put Ron Z, we're going to put you on hold for a second because we got to get to this Tampa Bay game. We're going to go ahead and bring in Shane Mickle right now because, Shane, you're going to be looking at this Rays and Yankees game. How you doing, Shane?
Good. How about you guys?
Oh, can't complain, can't complain. Of course, as we're about maybe 10, 15 minutes from the start of this Rays game, Yankees game, this is one you're looking at.
Yeah, I think there's some great value here with the underdog. Jordan Montgomery is on the mound for the Yankees, and he hasn't been good this season. He's made one start against the Rays, didn't even make an inning, gave up 4 runs. And the Rays have made it very clear that they do not want to see Garrett Cole tomorrow. So it's all hands on deck. Anyone they've got to send out there in the bullpen, if the game's close, they're going to do it because they want to win today. So I think the Rays will get it done as the underdog here.
All right. What do you think here, Dana, in this one, Rays and Yankees? Yankees looking to stave off elimination.
Well, I'm hoping to get some last-minute buys. I have this up on the website as one of my premium plays. But, certainly the Yankees have got to start getting some production from Urshela, and they got to get production from Aaron Judge and Luke Voigt. I mean, these are guys who have been pretty non-existent in the postseason, and I just kind of wonder where they would be without Stanton. But for the purpose of time and moving this along, I'm not sure we're going to get the kind of production out of the bottom of the Tampa Bay lineup that we did in the last game. But without that production from the Yankees, they're, and what's interesting about that, you're talking about your 2, 4, and 6 hitters too. So even if your 1 and 3 hitters get on, they're not moving anywhere. So that's one of the problems that has been for New York. But like I said, it's up on the website if you want to get my premium play.
All right, check out Dana Lane there. Mitch, looking at this Yankee team, boy, they look strong when they open this series. But, of course, Tampa Bay responding here. And, of course, the Yankees looking at elimination. But every game in the playoffs for the Yankees have gone over.
Been kind of a microcosm of the season for the Yankees. Started the season strong with Garrett Cole, looked absolutely unbeatable. And then all of a sudden, looked very, very beatable. And the Rays appear to have figured something out in the strike zone with these big Yankee hitters. They see Giancarlo Stanton is half a baseball player right now, and they're deferring and saying, hey, you know what? If we don't get, if we have to pitch to get to Stanton, so be it. It's like they're willing to take that chance, and it seems to be something that's paying off. On a side note, in which I've done this to a few guests so far, Shane covers our KBO over at Pick Dogs, and I would put him up against any handicapper on the planet with their premium picks on Shane's free picks on KBO. He has absolutely spanked the books in KBO this season. We don't post the record for free picks on our websites, but I would guess that Shane is probably up 10,000 units on $100 bets in KBO this year. It's just been unbelievable. I mean, it's a heater, and maybe next year we'll give KBO a little bit more attention. We started covering KBO because of the COVID, as kind of a matter of necessity. And even when a lot of other people dropped off KBO after the COVID, and we were kind of like, oh, what the hell? It's just more stuff for us to cover. People like it. The games are on at weird hours, so we're not doing anything else anyway. Let's cover the KBO. And Shane has really killed it. So if you've missed Shane's KBO, it's on the Pick Dog site. You have really, really missed the boat. But, back to this one on the Yankees and Rays. I think the Rays have just figured something out here in the Yankees, and I think they figured it out early this season. They had, this record against the Yankees. I think the public thought, oh, this is only half the Yankees team that they beat. No, they beat the whole Yankees team, too. They beat Garrett Cole a couple times this year. And one of the games, he got a no decision. He was lucky to get that. The other time, they beat him outright. And, this Rays team was who I picked to win the World Series this year, so I'm going to stick with them. I'm going to continue to ride it into the ground because my other team is long gone on the other side, the Cardinals.
Yeah, Shane, how do you feel about these bullpen games? Ryan Thompson, maybe a couple innings, but then, of course, you are going to the bullpen, then everyone's got to be good. A guy's off, you can put up a crooked number. Yeah,
it's an issue. Yeah, one thing about the bullpen games this year, too, is with the 3-batter minimum. I mean, if someone goes out there with one bad, you can tell he's off on his first hitter. You still got to stick him out there for two more bats. But I still think the Rays got it with this bullpen game. All hands on deck, and I think they come out and pull out the win.
All right, guys, that's Shane Mickle. You'll find him over at Pig Dogs. Shane, I know you've had a fantastic NBA season. We hit the top of the hour. What can they find over at Pig Dogs Premium from your service?
Yep, we got one MLB play tonight, one college football play, one NFL play, and I'm really looking forward to the weekend. Went 3-0 in UFC last weekend, and I really like this card again. So we'll have a package on the UFC this weekend too.
Absolutely. I wanted to get your thoughts here on this UFC. I know you cover it in detail. What big fight cards are coming up?
You know, the big one is Khabib in a couple weeks here, and I'm really excited for that one because that should be a great fight against Gaethje. You know, this one isn't loaded with big names, but it's loaded with a lot of value. This Fight Island's has been really exciting.
Absolutely. All right, Shane, have a great weekend. Good luck with your plays, and we'll talk with you next week.
All right, have a good one, you guys.
All right, everybody. Shane Mickle here on the Drive Thru. Mitch, remember the days when we talked boxing? What has happened to that sport?
I still love boxing, but it's a sport that kind of beat itself. And, you know, UFC got it right when they were getting it wrong. And I think, you know, even through the COVID stoppage and everything else, once again, UFC got it right, boxing got it wrong. And it was like, I think what happened to boxing was, you know, something that we used to talk about all the time is that, you know, there's an entire generation of potential fans out there that never saw Manny Pacquiao fight because every single one of his fights was on pay-per-view for $100 a fight. And it's like they missed every single one of his fights, you know? And I think when you put all of your superstars on all those fights and you don't have Friday night fights, you know, you have Friday night fights, but it's not like the old Friday night fights with Howard Cosell where Muhammad Ali would take on, you know, Jimmy Young or something. You know, we've lost that. And boxing has lost that. And until we see a fight like, you know, the Garcia against Spence fight or something like that on free TV, you know, on CBS Sports Spectacular, Bazooka Lamone and you know, Bobby Chacon. It's like, hey, you know, our barrel jumping got canceled this week. What are we going to do? Call Lamone and Chacon and see if they're willing to go. It's like, yeah, they'll go. Right? It's like, I mean, how many Saturdays did you watch that? Boom Boom Mancini. And, you know, it's like we just don't have that anymore in boxing. And, you know, boxing is, you know, it's still one of my very favorite sports, but just, you know, it's kind of lost its way.
Yeah, a little lost its way. I remember those days back in the day at the Hollywood Reseda Club and, of course, Olympic Auditorium. There were some great fights there. All right, continue here on the Drive-Thru. More picks still on the way. Let's bring them in. We got more college football to cover. It's Rod Zawacki. You'll watch him and listen to him on the morning show with Mitch and company. Rod, how you doing today? You're like me. You're pretty upset at Kelly Jensen.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That was ugly yesterday.
Yeah. You know, what's that dilemma for the Dodgers?
I think that was my only second time this year actually betting on the Dodgers. I bet them once and they won. This is the second time. I usually try to stay clear of the public favorites. It's a lot of time it's death.
Yes, it can be. And of course, we're going to be looking at college football here, Ron, with Temple and Navy. Temple making their 2020 debut as a favorite on the road against Navy. Of course, Navy's had really some downs games. We saw that loss they had in the opener, and then of course they were beaten by Air Force. But Temple making their debut. They're known as a defensive team, although they're having to replace a lot of stars this year. But they're favored in this one.
Yeah, Temple's finally going to play their first game of the year here. Navy, what we've seen so far has been pretty awful. They've looked good for one half of football so far this year. And can you take a whole lot of solace in that they came back against Tulane with the way that Tulane's defense really is. So, anyways, for Temple here, they're returning on offense. They're returning Anthony Russo at quarterback. And he's going to have a couple of returning receivers to catch the ball. You got Jordan Blue, 95 catches last season, 1,067 yards receiving. You also have 6'5" senior Brandon Mack, who will be a good receiver for him to throw to. And you also have Raman Davis, who led the Owls in rushing last season as a true freshman. I think he'll step up and have a bigger year here. And the Owls, I know they did lose some guys on defense, but usually that's their strong point. I think they'll be ready to slow down the the offense of Navy. And looking at the Navy side of the ball, their offense definitely has struggled this year, but it's kind of like a rotating quarterback. Morris didn't play last week; he was sick, so he'll be back in this year. But he's having trouble running their option offense. And then I also look at Navy's coach. And I quote, he goes, "We have big concerns for us. We're not a physical team right now. And we're coming up playing Temple, and Temple's always a physical team. This team over the years is probably the most physical team in our league," is what the Navy coach is saying. So for me, the play here, I got to take Temple. Give me Temple and the points. I know it's their first game of the year, but I think Temple can run the ball. They're being bigger. They'll be able to run the ball, control the clock against Navy, which will open the passing downfield for them. So for me, you got. I'm going to go Temple here. Give me Temple minus the 3.5. I think they have no problem.
Dana. Dana, Navy used to have trouble with some of these physical teams from the bigger conferences here. We'll see how Temple does it here against Navy. Of course, Navy with those 2 bad losses this season.
Yeah, well, Navy got to the point where they weren't having too much problems moving the ball against the likes of Notre Dame from year to year. But besides that, I in this particular game, I do want to see more of Dalen Morris. Like he said, I mean, he had to come back win against Tulane. I don't know how much you're going to put into that. I do like that 3.5. If I can get 3.5, he's a much bigger passing threat than Gosselin is for sure. So it would be Navy or nothing for me. It's not the most attractive game on the board, but for the purpose of having an opinion, I like the 3.5.
Mitch, this Temple team, as we've seen in the past, really physical, but having to replace I believe it's 4 starters back on defense, and of course, it's a team that can really pound the football. How do you see this one?
I see. I think for me, Temple is a more physical team. They're also a year into a new coaching staff. After last year when Manny Diaz was going to be the head coach, then he wasn't the head coach, and it was kind of a last second thing. And it's like whenever you have that, you have to kind of find your feet and build a base and come back. And I think Temple's done that. Navy just looks terrible this season. They look terrible. I know they had the big comeback against Tulane, but I don't care. This is the worst Navy team I've seen. Navy needs to have a quarterback that can really steer the ship there, and they just don't seem to have that right now. And, even worse than that, their tackling is just piss poor. And it's like, if you can't tackle, you can't win. I always say the team that blocks the best and tackles the best wins the game. Navy does neither of those two things well. I think they're in trouble against a Temple team that's probably going to look a lot bigger than them on the field as well. On a side note, Broncos-Pats game rescheduled for Monday.
Broncos and Pats. Of course, the Patriots missed practice on Wednesday and Thursday. No practice for them there, so we have another Monday game. So we'll have another doubleheader, which many people I think will enjoy. All right, Rod. I like it. I'm okay with that. Rod, we see you over at Pig Dogs Premium. As we just passed the top of the hour, what do you have going on?
We just passed what I had left on the card at the top of the hour. But I got one game up for tomorrow. I got my NBA Game of the Year tomorrow available at the website. You can get it right now for $24.99.
All right, guys, check out Rod Zawacki over at Pig Dogs Premium. Pick up that NBA play. Big one tomorrow, Heat and Lakers. And, of course, you can catch him on the morning show, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time with Mitch and company. And, of course, Rod, as always, great to have on your show. Have a great night, and we will talk with you tomorrow.
Good to be here.
See you in the morning.
Have yourselves a good night.
That's
and we'll see you in the morning, Mitch.
The morning show there with Mitch. It's it's a different show, Mitch, but you guys have fun with it.
We do the best we can. I mean, none of us are professional broadcasters. We don't pretend to be. All of us are opinionated, and all of us can take a good ribbing and dish it out at the same time. So we have a good time with it, and I think our audience seems to enjoy it, and really that's the bottom line. And we give out a lot of winners. So I think sometimes we get a little too sidetracked. Our audience will let us know that, but at the same time, they forgive us because I think Brian Bittler's missed 2 of these primetime games. Brian Bittler has only missed 2 on the prop bet who's going to score the first touchdown on all the NFL primetime games this season. He's only missed 2. I mean, when Sam Darnold ran the ball 47 yards down the middle of the field, Fittler had that as his first touchdown for the game. Sam Darnold is like, who the hell calls that? He had Noah Fant, in the first game with the Broncos. He's had them all.
Nice.
It's been an amazing run that he's been on, with these first touchdowns.
All right, here on the drive. There's still more picks coming, guys. I want to look at this game here with the Giants and Cowboys. Dallas laying 9.5 to 8, depending where you shop. Total sits here at 54. This is a team here. Both teams struggle defensively, Dana, but Dallas obviously has a better defense.
Yeah, but their defensive line has been absolutely decimated.
Sorry, I meant the better offense.
Definitely the better offense.
Yeah,
you could run at will almost against the Cowboys, and we'll see if a team like the Giants can do it. I mean, the Browns certainly proved that they could. Their secondary is completely unreliable. I feel like I'm watching, Tony Romo years again. This team, in order to be successful, I've said this a million times, Dak Prescott can't throw for 500 yards. Dak Prescott has got to throw for 275 to 300 yards, and Zeke Elliott's got to run for 100 yards. That's not happening right now because they are so pass happy because either they're way behind early, they refuse to run the ball. I don't think Zeke Elliott's had 30 carries in his last 2 weeks combined. So I think this week they get back to the running game a little bit more, but honestly, 8.5 it's way too many points to lay with a Cowboy team that honestly should be winless this season. Tyron Smith is out for the year for Dallas. He might come back later in the season, but you're looking at Terrence Steele, who was a college free agent, is going to play left tackle for the Cowboys, and man, up and down that lineup. I mean, Sean Lee, who's always hurt. Jalen Smith, who is probably he's a man on the island out there that's got to do it all. This Cowboy pass rush was supposed to be way better. It's just not. Teams are moving out of the pocket, moving away from the pass rush. I can't lay 8.5 with this Cowboy team until I see more balance with them offensively.
Mitch, it looks like the Cowboys lost one of their offensive linemen to an injury again. So they're not the same O-line that we've seen the past couple of years. But can the Giants somehow, some way keep up in the scoring column with Dallas?
Well, Daniel Jones is a train wreck. And, he's certainly not, a quarterback that you can build a franchise around. It's just another bad Giants draft pick, and you look back. They've had one winner, in the draft in the last 20 years, and that's Saquon Barkley. You look at all their other draft choices, and it's been a dumpster fire. When you take Eli Apple, number 9 overall, it clearly shows that you don't know what you're doing when it comes to the NFL draft, and that's what the Giants have shown us, and that's why this team has deteriorated to the point where they are, even though they have more money than God. I mean, they charged $19 for a chicken nugget. It's like these guys, and they're getting it. They have the most expensive ticket price in the NFL. And I mean, it's a salary cap sport, but it seems to be rounded edges, right? It seems that most teams seem to be able to work around the cap, but the Giants, I don't know. They just can't seem to figure this out. I think when you bring in Blake Martinez to solve your defensive issues after that San Francisco Packers game, it just goes to show that maybe some of the personnel decisions they make, they really just have no idea what they're doing. But, I think when we look at the Dallas Cowboys, it's the opposite end of the spectrum. It's let's spend big on a couple of guys. And if you're going to spend $20 million on a wide receiver, he has to be the best wide receiver in the NFL. He has to be the best wide receiver on your team. And Amari Cooper is neither. He is a disappointment. He doesn't like to go over the middle. He doesn't like to catch the football, which is a fundamental issue if you're a wide receiver in the National Football League. I think the CeeDee Lamb was a great pick for the Cowboys, a lot better than I thought he was going to be. I think these Oklahoma wide receivers in general, a little soft, right, because they come out of that Lincoln Riley offense. But we've seen Brown in Baltimore played well, and we've seen Lamb looks actually really good. I'd like to see the Cowboys, I'm not a fan, but I would like to see them try to maybe run some jet sweeps with him the way they used Deebo Samuel in San Francisco. I think that Lamb can do a lot of those same things. I think if Lamb is big enough that you see him coming around the end, there's not going to be too many defensive backs that are going to want to step in the way of him, in front of him either. So I don't know. I struggle with the Cowboys. I picked them last week against the Browns. I knew in the first 5 minutes I was a dead man. I knew it. It's like I just knew it. They weren't going to stop the run, and you can't stop the run. You can't win games. I think the Cowboys are in big trouble, and I think the way they hold on to head coaches, maybe you see why Mike McCarthy's not in Green Bay anymore.
All right, this is the drive-through here. I'm joined by Mitch and Dana as we have more picks coming up, and we're about ready to bring in another capper, and we're going to bring in Damien Sauce. You'll find him over at Pig Dogs Premium. Dana, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, real good.
All right, very
Looking
good.
forward to tonight's football games.
Yeah, there's some football games tonight. Of course, that Thursday night NFL game. And, of course, we're going to be looking at the game here kicking off in about 15 minutes or so. Tulane at Houston. You're going to be looking at the total here with Houston about a 6.5-point favorite, total around 58.5 in some places. Of course, Tulane's, what, 4 games on their belt. Houston has had some bad luck here with the COVID postponements.
Yeah, this will be Houston's first game in the season. When you look into this game, Tulane last week put up 66 points against Southern Mississippi. They ran for over 200 yards against Southern Alabama and Navy. However, Tulane's very one-dimensional. And I think the main reason for that is their quarterback play. As a team, they're only completing 44% of their pass attempts. And although Tulane is deep at running back, they're going to be without their best running back in Tyjae Spears. And I don't think they're going to have the same success running the ball against Houston as they have in their previous opponents. Houston is a team that wasn't very good defensively last year, but they're returning 93% of their defensive personnel. I expect them to be much improved on that side of the football. And, I think Houston, as you mentioned, is going to be the first game of the season. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for that Houston offense to get going. I do like Houston's quarterback, Clayton Tune. He did get 7 games under his belt last year after De'Aaron King decided to take his talents to South Beach. So I do like Clayton Tune, but as I mentioned, first game of the season, Dana Holgerson's air raid offense is going to take some time, I think, for that offense to get going, and I like the under in this football game.
All right, you like the under in this football game. I know, Dana, you're looking at a side in this one, right?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to Michael Pratt getting a whole week of practice. I think with that being said, against, it was mentioned that, Houston was 124th last year in total defense. Yes, they're returning guys, but they're also returning guys that were 124th in total defense. So, yeah, they're going to be improved for sure. Getting a touchdown is pretty attractive to me. Believe me, there's a lot of other games on the board this weekend that I will dive into a little bit further. But for the sake of playing this game tonight, I think the freshman's going to have a pretty big night and keep this game close as Houston kind of tries to get into the football season, as we should say, because they obviously haven't played at all this year.
Mitch, what do you make of this Houston program with the coaching change to Holgerson? Of course, last season's 4-8 finish with King pretty much redshirting.
Since Dana Holgerson left Oklahoma State, we've been waiting to see the Dana Holgerson offense that he had at Oklahoma State, and we haven't seen it. We did not see it at West Virginia, and we did not see it last year at Houston. So, he is the offensive guru, but, Oklahoma State went through about 4 offensive coordinators after him, and they all seem to be able to do the same thing. So maybe this guy is a little bit overrated. He definitely has something to prove, because I don't know the specifics of his contract, which is pretty bad for me, because normally I know exactly what all these guys are making. But I'm going to guess Tillman Fertitta was writing the check there, so it was probably a pretty good one. Tillman not known for skimping on paying people out. So, the expectations are definitely going to be there in Houston. I'm just not so sure that, facing a Tulane team that, has a few games under their belt, they know what it's like to blow a lead. And, you could either harp on that, or you can call it a learning experience. And I think Tulane, maybe they did have that learning experience. But like I said, Holgerson's offense, if it's not running efficiently, man, you hang your defense out to dry. They are on the field a very long time.
Yeah, they definitely are. And, of course, that's one thing you're banking on here, Damien, is the fact that Houston, with that passing attack, may just not be in tune right now with Clayton Tune.
Right, exactly. I mean, like I said, first game of the season, Tulane having 3 games under their belt. I think the defense is going to be a little bit ahead of the offense in this one.
Absolutely. All right. Why don't you let us know, Damon, what you have over at Pig Dogs Premium? We saw you off doing really well up at the top of the leaderboards as we passed the top of the hour. What do you have going on at Pig Dogs Premium?
Yeah, things are going well. I still have play on the side in this football game as well, and the NFL play on the side going off tonight. And I'm really looking forward to this Saturday college football card, 5-0 last weekend, and I'm looking to keep that going this weekend, obviously.
Yeah, keep that going. And Damon, of course, you'll find Damon Soch over at Pig Dogs Premium. Damon, as always, great having you on your show. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, everybody. Damon Soch here on the Drive-Thru Show. All right, guys, we'll look at this Panthers and Falcons game that will go off on Sunday from the NFL. Going to get a quick look at it here. The Panthers really have surprised some people. They've been able to win some games. They were getting about a couple of points in this one, and I saw 1.5 in some places, but they've been competitive in 2 of the 3 games. Of course, we know the issue with Atlanta, just an all offense, no defense team. They're going to be on the short week. We saw Julio Jones have to leave in that first quarter in that loss to the Packers. So real desperate team here in desperate times for Atlanta, Dana.
Well, I mean, absolutely. I mean, they should have probably won that. Obviously, should have won that Cowboy game, and coincidentally, probably the Carolina should have won that Raiders game. But for Carolina, I just see them getting better defensively. Of course, they're young. If you go up and down their lineup on the defensive end of things, I mean, there's a lot of room to grow, and I just think that they're going to get better. They're certainly on the upswing. They're getting a lot more pressure on the opposing quarterbacks. They allowed 67 points in their first 2 games. They didn't get a sack in either of those games, but since that point, they've only given up 37 points in the last 2. And like I said, they are beginning to get some pressure on opposing quarterbacks. So I like where they're going rather than where Atlanta is at this point. And you're going to give me a couple points in this game. I'll certainly take that. But as much as defense is an issue for Atlanta, it also is for Carolina as well. The Carolina is not a team that usually wins a lot of shootouts, so they need to keep this low scoring.
All right, Mitch, and of course, Teddy Bridgewater. How have you your opinion of his play so far with his Carolina offense now without his back in the backfield?
I think he's been decent. I think what we're seeing is Coach Rule, it's going to take him a little while to get his guys in there, but I think what we're starting to see, what we saw in San Diego, is that he getting the guys to buy into his system and buy into what his brand of football. And normally it takes winning a game or two to do that. And I believe he has done that. And this is what he did at Baylor. It's the same thing. You keep the games close, like the game against the Raiders that, like we said, that maybe he should have won. But I think the whole idea is that he tries to do it. What he did at Baylor and how he turned that program around is you keep it close and you give yourself a chance to win at the end, even against the teams that are better than you. And at this point, it's almost everybody, right? So he's gotten the guys to buy into it. They're playing a full 60 minutes, and that's all you can really expect from them, which is the opposite of what we're seeing from this Falcons team, who does not play a full 60 minutes. They like to play either 55 minutes or they play maybe 45 minutes, but they're not playing a full 60 minutes, that's for sure. Even what was it against Dallas? Maybe they played 58 minutes in that one. I'm not really sure exactly what the time was, but it was in that ballpark of the 50 to 40. It was in the 45 to 50 minute range. So I think, you play for the full time. And I think that, things like having Rule, having Kingsbury, have success in the NFL. Boy, with Quinn on the hottest of hot seats there in Atlanta, especially with the firing in Houston this week, you got to figure that he's, number 1 on the list now of the guys to go. It's a must-win situation in Atlanta. Holgerson's making $20 million for 5 years over there in Houston, by the way, plus the $2.1 million that he got from West Virginia, and they paid his buyout as well. So, and they had to pay Major Applewhite. They were still into him for 2.1. So it was about 25 mil to get Holgerson there too.
I think his job is to get Houston into the Big 12. I think that's what they're paying him to do. That's my take.
Yeah, but apparently, when Tillman Fertitta said that the issue was at the Big 12, when they had the big thing that they were going to expand by 2 more teams, that the people that would make that decision were not even at the meeting. And the Big 12 has no interest because that's 2 more teams they'll have to split the money with.
Absolutely. All right,
continue here on this. Texas, they don't want to split the money with anybody.
No, they don't. They don't want to share the recruiting spots. I don't blame them. All right, continue here on the drive-thru. Now it's time for Mitch's pick. Mitch, you're looking at, of course, Miami and Clemson. We've got Clemson favored by 2 touchdowns, total about 62.
Yeah, these two teams played a couple of years ago in the ACC championship game. Miami was depleted by the time they got to that game. They had played hard all season long, and they had a kind of a nice surprise year that year, and they just by the time they made it to that ACC championship game, all their key players were hurt. I mean, really all of them. They really had nothing left. Their top 2 or 3 running backs were gone. Top 2 or 3 wide receivers were gone. Most of their top defenders were gone, and they looked like it. They got housed by Clemson that game. Unfortunately, Miami doesn't have those excuses in this one. I think they're in big trouble once again. I think this Miami team is just too young, and I think that they have talent. They have raw talent, but the issue that Miami has here is that you're going to see the same Miami players on the field for them next year, and I'll be rooting for Miami. I'll be hoarse on Sunday morning, but they're not going to go into Death Valley and beat Clemson. They'll be lucky to be within 3 touchdowns after the first quarter, to be honest with you. I just don't think they have the guns and the horses to run with this team. In order to beat a team like Clemson, let alone beat them on the road, which they're being asked to do here. And I know it's not the Death Valley, right? But it's still Death Valley at night, which is not a good spot for anybody, right? We've seen way better teams than this go down there. We saw Georgia, that Gurley and Chubb team went down at Death Valley a few years ago in a night game. It's just a miserable spot for a road team, and especially a young team. And if Miami makes any mistakes early, this thing could get out of hand early. And what we've seen from this Miami team is that they do make mistakes and that they don't play a perfect game. And some of these overthrows that King has made will turn into 6 points the other way against Clemson. They might fall incomplete against UAB, but those are touchdowns. I think that, because of that, I think that this game is going to stay under the total. I think that, a lot of people are looking for this high scoring game and this, this back and forth, but I think this is more like Clemson probably gets ahead comfortably and does what they've done in the previous few weeks, which is basically sit on it and not take too much, not take it out too much on them, because they know Trevor Lawrence is going to be gone this year. Etienne, he's going to be gone this year. And reloading is a tough team. And while everybody else has been on the wrong side of these Clemson beatings, Miami proved a long time ago that, sometimes being on the wrong side of beatings is a good way to recruit. Hey, we got Clemson on the schedule. You can play here, and that's, we see Kirby Smart, and Dabo Swinney having these, the Titans-Bills game now on Tuesday. So we've got sports next week. But anyways, there's a new thing in college football, and these top programs are deathly afraid of it. They should be. It's called the transfer portal. And it used to be, the guys would have to sit a year. Now everybody gets the exception, right? Everybody gets it. Justin Fields didn't wait a year at Ohio State. No one's going to wait now, the transfer portal has changed the game. So just because you had the number 1 recruiting class, you might not even have half those guys on your roster. And Clemson knows this. Expect them to really tune it up. I think this could be Dabo Swinney's last run, and boy, it wouldn't be something if he winds up in Atlanta. That's really a practical spot for him. It really is. As crazy as it sounds, Nick Saban coached in the sidelines in Miami for a year, so it's not really out of the realm. And Dabo Swinney talks about what how he comes across as this religious and kids and all this other thing. The guy makes $9.1 million a year, and he did not offer to take any kind of pay cut this year because of the COVID and the school not making as much money. He didn't offer to. He didn't say, "Well, I know the school's not making as much, so I'll take 6." No, he took the full 9-1.
All right, it's Mitch here. I'm joined with Dana. Dana, you think this Miami Hurricanes program can stay within 2 touchdowns?
Not at all. I echo just about everything. I mean, we'll keep it real short. I mean, this just comes down to a comfort level in a big game atmosphere, and Clemson has been there time after time. Miami is still trying to maybe even prove it to themselves that they could play with a team like Clemson. The only time Derek King has been in this type of situation is when he was back in Houston. They went to Oklahoma, and they absolutely got spanked in that game, and I still need to see Derek King in a big-time atmosphere play a big-time game, and maybe he will. But I'll sit there. I will take my money and put it behind Trevor Lawrence in this situation at any time, because I just think at this point, obviously, he's more proven. And, listen, we've seen – this is one thing I always like to throw out too. If you got these top games and you see these double-digit point spreads, more times than not, don't be afraid to lay these double-digit point spreads, because more times than not, the favorite covers in these games. When I know the public wants to jump on 14 points, I see the 7th-ranked team in the country playing number 1. Why can't they stay within 14? Well, you do that more times than not, and you're going to be out of your bank. Your bankroll is going to be out of money at the end of the year. Clemson is head and shoulders the better of these two teams, and we may be the best team in the country, and we'll see when they play Notre Dame in a few weeks. But certainly in this situation, they're head and shoulders above where Miami is.
When you look at the ranking system, it is flawed. It is very flawed. It is a very flawed system, and Miami is not the 7th best team in the country. They're not, at least not yet. I always said when we were number 1 for all those years, and that Miami wouldn't start the season number 1, I always would say the same thing. To be number 1, you got to beat number 1. If you were number 1 at the end of last season, you're number 1 at the beginning of this season. That's just the way that it has to be. But they don't do it that way, and that's fine. And usually, it all works itself out in the end. But this Clemson team, they've only been favored in one of those college football playoff games that they've been in. They've only been favored one time in all those college football playoff games that they've been in. They've played in the championship, right? They've won 2 championships, right? And they played in the championship 2 other times that they lost. I mean, it just goes to show you, it's like this. The ACC teams don't get as much respect, But when push comes to shove, they beat the crap out of Alabama 2 years ago. I mean, they beat the crap out of them, and it was Trevor Lawrence and it was Travis Etienne, the same guys that beat Ohio State last year too. Same guys. It's like, this team is tough, man. Clemson reloads at wide receiver. That's a position you can reload, and Clemson reloads there like no one's business. Look around the NFL at all those Clemson wide receivers. Whoa, some of the top ones out there.
Yeah, Mitch, when you're going to have your card ready over at Pig Dogs for the football weekend?
I usually put up my games up the night before. I wait to see if anyone gets arrested or, gets caught with a hooker or something before I put up the picks, just to make sure that the line doesn't move drastically. All
right. That's Mitch here joining us here on Pig Dogs Premium. All right, we'll continue here. It's time for a selection here. Well, we're going to look at this. We looked at Clemson, Miami. Now we're going to look at this game here with the Colts and Browns was on our list here. I wanted to look at this line here. We've seen the Colts favored on the road by about a point and a half in this one. And Cleveland's a team that, they play a little improved football, but I'm a little concerned here about this Colts. The Colts defense has been great, but the schedule hasn't been too difficult, but the offense has to get moving a little bit. How do you see this one, Dana?
I'll be quick on this one because this game's going to go up on the site as well. I still need to see the Colts go on the road and cover a game. Even going back to last season, they really have not been a team that you want to put your money behind on the road. Now, I do know that Nick Chubb is going to be out of the game, but we should see plenty of Kareem Hunt, who, by the way, did appear in a Pro Bowl at one point. He looked pretty good against the Cowboys as well. The Colts are definitely not my side in this one. I'll take the 1.5, but I will have a total on this on the website.
All right, total on the website from Dana Lane. Mitch, your thoughts here on this Cleveland and Colts game? You got, the Cleveland Browns have shown some offensive improvement, but that's that Colts defense played well, but again, not against strong competition.
I always say, you got to look at the way the whole organization from top to bottom. You guys, most people know I'm a Dolphins season ticket holder. I don't go to any of the games, obviously, but it's like you want to talk about a team. You want to know why they don't make the playoffs. Be on their email list, and when they talk about parking or something, it's like what it starts at the top and it goes all the way to the bottom. I think the Colts have been pretty well run recently. I think Frank Reich was a great hire as coach, a few years ago, and out of Philly. And look at Philly since he's gone, and look at the Colts now. And I think you look at the best trade of the last entire year. They only gave up one first-round draft pick for DeForest Buckner in an era where the guy who got fired this week gave up 2 number-1 draft picks for Laramie Tunsil. I mean, this is how you become a contender, is you get a defensive lineman that can play like that. And the reason I was going like this is Tulane picked 6 for the touchdown.
Yeah.
They got
Clayton Tune again.
Houston went for it on 4th and 4. And then a lot of coaches would say just knock it down in that situation. But Tulane decided to go against the best advice, picked it off, and just ran it right down the sideline for an easy touchdown. I think the Colts are just a tough customer. And, we saw them go into Chicago last week, and, you could call it an easy schedule or whatever, but Chicago was a very public dog in that game. People saw Chicago getting points at home against the Colts. Man, if Phil Rivers doesn't throw interceptions, he's pretty good. And it's like, we know that, the Cleveland pass rush is, really lights out, just ridiculous. But here's a guy with the quickest release since Dan Marino, and maybe this is where it comes in handy. I think this Colts team is playoff ready. It's due. I'm not so sure Cleveland is.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm always worried about that run game behind Rivers. When he had LT, it was effective. When he lost LT, they couldn't even run for 4 yards a carry. And right now, that's where the Colts are at, 3.5. They lose Mack. And I always worry when the run game doesn't work, then Rivers tries to do it too much on his own and makes mistakes like Clayton Tune here did. We got pressure up the middle, just threw it up for grabs, and it was a pick 6. Dana must have loved that, plus the 7.
I did.
Running to the line.
For sure.
I loved it. I'm with you on this one. But Houston running to the line, playing this hurry up offense. This is going to be one of those games. But I just think the Colts are a playoff ready team. I'm just not sold on the Cleveland Browns, and I think it'll be interesting to see if Buckner can get that center push against Baker Mayfield. I think if you can rush the passer up the middle, and create that surge in the middle of the defensive line, it just changes games. You look at the best teams of all time; they always have a great surge up the middle. Even Bill Belichick defenses, it's like, and you look at the Ravens defenses over the years and the nose tackles and the defensive tackles that they've had. I think Buckner was that was just the trade. If Laramie Tunsil is 2 first-round draft choices, this guy's 6,
Yeah, absolutely. We got an update here. Yankees won zips. They've got a home run off Thompson, I believe. And this Thompson looked a little wild there. Some of the Yankees playing, dancing around home plate here. So we'll keep an eye on this one throughout the night. And of course, Mitch will have a halftime show, right? The halftime show, halftime of the Bucks and Bears.
Absolutely. We're at halftime of every NFL primetime game, as well as the early games on Sundays.
All right, my free pick is Vikings Seahawks. We're going to take this one over 56.5. We know the Seahawks offense is really strong. They're running the football. They're averaging 35 points a game. Minnesota, they're just not, a lot of youngsters on defense, not getting enough pressure on the quarterback. Of course, Wilson has Carson who's running for 4.5 yards a carry. They're number 1 offense in the red zone. I like them a lot. And, of course, we know Seahawks issues defensively. They get the most yards of any team in the NFL and the most passing yards. We're going to go over total of 56.5. Dana, you must have been impressed with that Seahawks team going into Miami and getting the cover in that spot. Really tough for that Pacific Northwest team going in that oven in Miami.
Yeah, that was a tough spot. I was contemplating that game, and of course it tells you something when you travel across country, even if it's going to Miami and getting a W. But like you did mention, Seattle gives up the most passing yards in the NFL. Now they're going to be without Jamal Adams. So, and then you're going to give me a touchdown with the Vikings. I think Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson are going to have big days for the Vikings. I think they're going to throw for a lot of yards. And certainly if you're going to give me a touchdown and you're going to be able to move the ball up and down the field, I'm more than happy to take that 7 points.
I didn't see this Vikes and Seahawks game, Mitch.
I had the Seahawks last week against the Dolphins, and actually it was one of those games where it wasn't as close as the score indicated. Russell Wilson threw an interception into the end zone, and then Miami kind of dressed it up with a late score as well. And that one is much more one-sided as Houston is ready to score here on Tulane. Well, it's going to be a track meet of a game. So if you have a wager in this one, don't circle it as a winner or cross it off as a loser anytime soon. But I don't know, Kirk Cousins on the road in night games against good teams, generally not a great spot for him. Dalvin Cook is exceptional. Running back, like you guys said, Jefferson has been amazing so far. When they lost Diggs, Cousins lost his security blanket, but I believe that Jefferson's going to be as good, if not better.
All right, that's Mitch here. Join us here on the drive-through, and we'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern time with a lot more picks. So we'll be looking at Lakers Heat game. We'll have a pick from that, as well as if there are baseball games played tomorrow. We're not guaranteed baseball games, but if there are, we'll have them. Or if not, it'll be a football show for Friday, and it's good because we're on Monday through Friday, so be sure to tune in. Let's review the picks from the show. We started the day off with Alex, and of course, Alex said go ahead and take the Padres plus 145 against the Dodgers. Al was on the Chiefs and Raiders over 55. Dana, Bucks Bears Thursday Night Football over 44.5. Chris Ruffalo, South Carolina laying the points 13.5 against Vanderbilt. Rod was on Temple laying the points against Navy. Shane, well, you can still bet this in game. You could probably get better odds than this because they're down 1-zip. Rays plus 123 against the Yankees. Damien was on the under with his Tulane Houston game. Mitch, Miami and Clemson under the total of 62. Yours truly, Vikes and Seahawks over 56.5. And I'm going to go to you first, Dana. Other than your pick or the games in progress, which pick do you like the best?
Well, Miami Clemson under. I don't think Miami is going to put up much of a fight, and that's mostly going to be because they're not going to be able to move the ball on a consistent basis. So I like Mitch's pick the best.
All right, Mitch, the same question to you.
Let's see. I think the Chiefs Raiders over 55.
All right, he goes Chiefs Raiders over the total of 55. All right, guys, this was the drive-through. Be sure to tune in tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern time. We'll have a lot more picks for you. We'll get into football for the weekend. And, of course, don't forget, 10:30 a.m. each time, it's Mitch Morning Show with Chris Ruffalo, Rod, and Brian Bittler. All right, I want to bring in all the cappers from today's show. Wave a goodbye. And, of course, we've got, don't forget to check Rod's pick, upper right corner. He'll add a bonus pick, a prop. First TD, Scott Miller at plus 450 there, Mitch.
There you have it.
There you go, guys. All right, have a good night. And don't forget to stay tuned. About an hour, maybe a couple hours from now, Mitch's halftime show from that Thursday Night Football game.